Southeast Asia sits squarely across the Pacific Ring of Fire, operating right now at exceptionally high capacity. With dozens of major stratovolcanoes active simultaneously, it is the planet's most volatile disaster laboratory. When a mountain ruptures, our eyes are naturally drawn to the glowing lava. But for emergency managers and search and rescue teams, these slow-moving, heavily tracked lava flows are highly predictable and relatively easy to avoid. The true lethal threat, the one that triggers massive evacuations and locks down entire regions, is soaring thousands of meters overhead, rapidly blanketing the sky in thick, heavy ash. Public perception of ash is skewed by campfire soot, or the soft remains of burnt paper. This diagram reveals the physical reality. On the left is a soft, round particle of wood soot. On the right is volcanic ash, a jagged, razor-sharp shard of pulverized rock and microscopic silica glass. Because it presents as a fine, floating dust, it bypasses our natural instincts for danger. But breathing in a cloud of shattered glass sets off a chain reaction of failures across both biological systems and mechanical infrastructure. The damage starts the moment you inhale. Those jagged, microscopic silica shards slice straight into soft lung tissue. This triggers acute silicosis, a severe respiratory condition that can suffocate a person from the inside out. The threat to your eyes is equally severe. If you wear contact lenses during an ashfall event, these tiny fragments of glass quickly get trapped behind the lens, permanently scoring the cornea and causing irreversible blindness. As the ash settles over a city, it doesn't sink, it floats, easily infiltrating and blanketing open municipal water reservoirs. Once inside the supply, the ash immediately leaches heavy metals and chemical toxins into the water, turning the local drinking supply poisonous within hours. Long before the first structures collapse under physical weight, the loss of clean air and safe water renders basic human survival impossible. The destruction of mechanical systems follows shortly after. If you try to drive, the silica rapidly shreds automotive air filters and scratches windshields entirely opaque the second you turn on your wipers. Up in the airspace, the threat scales into a logistical nightmare. Looking at this cross-section of a commercial jet turbine in mid-flight, you can see how millions of microscopic glass particles get rapidly sucked into the intake fans. The extreme heat inside the engine instantly melts the silica. It turns into a liquid glaze that coats the fuel nozzles and hardens into a solid shell, choking off the fuel supply and stalling the turbine completely. When several regional giants erupt across Indonesia and the Philippines at the same time, their massive plumes merge. Prevailing winds stretch this airborne glass into an overlapping, impenetrable wall of restricted airspace that blinds regional navigation. This airspace gridlock completely severs international flight routes, immediately cutting off critical economic and transit hubs like Singapore, Bali, and Manila. A massive ash release effectively throws up invisible borders, paralyzing global supply chains and halting international logistics in a matter of hours. In Southeast Asia, these volcanic events frequently collide with the heavy rains of the seasonal monsoons, creating an entirely new hazard. When torrential rain mixes with millions of tons of loose ash resting on steep mountain slopes, it creates a lahar. This fast-moving slurry of volcanic mud flows with the exact density and crushing force of wet concrete. These lahars barrel down mountainsides, choking downstream river systems, snapping bridges, and obliterating entire inland communities otherwise safe from the eruption. Higher up in the atmosphere, multiple concurrent eruptions pump massive volumes of sulfur dioxide straight into the stratosphere. This gas forms dense sulfate aerosols that reflect solar radiation back into space. With sunlight blocked from above and this physical blanket settling on the ground, massive swaths of agricultural land are completely smothered. What begins as a sudden geological hazard quickly compounds into widespread crop failure, burying viable farmland and threatening the entire region with long-term famine. For anyone living in or traveling through the Ring of Fire, there is a harsh reality. Multiple volcanoes erupting at the exact same time is the standard operating condition. Disaster response typically relies on shifting emergency resources from unaffected areas into the strike zone. But in a multi-eruptive scenario, these regional assets are instantly fractured. Helicopters cannot fly through the ash, and trucks cannot drive through the mud, forcing responders to move on foot. You cannot rely on an immediate state rescue. Survival requires personal preparedness and having pre-staged gear ready to go. Your mandatory loadout requires 3 things: a well-fitted N95 or P100 respirator mask to filter the silica, airtight goggles to protect your eyes, never wear contacts, and a minimum 72-hour supply of sealed bottled water. You also need real-time intelligence. Bookmark the official dashboards for the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, known as PhilVolcs, and Magma Indonesia to track live eruptive phases. A glowing lava flow might make for a stunning photograph. But when the skies turn gray, it is the microscopic, invisible glass raining down that dictates who makes it out alive.